If life had taught Daniel anything, it was that love rarely arrives politely. Sometimes it crashes into your world when you're least ready for it. And on the night of his first blind date in 4 years, he expected nothing more than awkward small talk, a rushed dinner, and a quiet drive home to tuck his daughter into bed. But the moment the woman walked into the restaurant, the room spun. Because she wasn't just familiar. She looked exactly, impossibly, heartbreakingly, like his late wife. What began as a harmless attempt at moving on suddenly turned into the most terrifying emotional storm of his life. And what happened next changed everything. Daniel Reynolds hated the idea of blind dates. Ever since his wife, Emily, passed away 4 years ago, the very word dating felt like betrayal. His world had shrunk to 2 things, work and his 6-year-old daughter, Lily. He told himself it was enough. He told others he didn't need anything else. But deep inside, he lived with a quiet ache, a loneliness he'd buried under routine. His best friend, Marcus, saw it long before Daniel admitted it. "You're alive, man," Marcus insisted one afternoon. "And Emily, she'd want you to be happy. You think she'd want Lily growing up thinking love ends in funerals?" Daniel hated how the words pierced him. He agreed, reluctantly, to one blind date. Just one. To prove he tried. The restaurant was warm and dimly lit, the kind of place where people pretended to feel special. Daniel sat at a small table, fingers tapping nervously while imagining every possible disaster this evening could bring. He wasn't prepared for this one. At 7:06 p.m., the door opened. His breath caught in his throat. A woman stepped inside, tall, soft-featured, with the exact same shade of deep brown eyes that Emily had. The same delicate jawline. The same warm smile Emily used to flash when she was nervous. For a horrifying second, he thought he was dreaming, or losing his mind. She approached him with gentle steps. "Daniel?" Her voice wasn't Emily's, but it was close enough to make his heart throb painfully. He swallowed. "Yes." She extended a hand. "I'm Clara." He shook it slowly, still staring, still stunned. How could someone look so similar and yet be a complete stranger? Clara sat down with an awkward chuckle. "You look like you've seen a ghost." He didn't answer. Instead, he looked at her again, and the memories he had worked years to bury rushed back with merciless force. Clara noticed the way his eyes softened with grief rather than interest. "Is something wrong?" she asked quietly. Everything was wrong. The dinner became a battlefield of emotions. Daniel tried to act normal, but every movement Clara made, every tilt of her head, every hesitant smile reminded him painfully of Emily. He barely touched his food. Clara tried to lighten the mood with small jokes, but even she could sense the strange tension. Finally, she asked, "Daniel, do I remind you of someone?" He froze. She sighed gently. "People usually don't stare at me like that unless they're seeing someone else in their head." He inhaled shakily. "You look like my wife. My late wife." Silence. Clara's eyes softened with unexpected empathy. "I'm sorry. That must be hard." But Daniel wasn't ready to hear kindness from a stranger wearing the face of the woman he lost. His hands trembled as he excused himself to the restroom just to breathe. He splashed cold water on his face, gripping the sink. This was a mistake. A stupid, painful mistake. When he returned to the table, Clara had already asked for the bill. "I think," she said gently, "you're not ready for this. And that's okay." Daniel expected the night to end right there, a disaster, just as he feared. But fate had other plans. As he walked Clara out of the restaurant, a sudden scream shattered the night. A little girl, no older than 7, stood near the road, crying, calling for her mother. A car was speeding toward her, oblivious. Without thinking, Clara bolted forward, grabbing the girl just in time. Daniel froze again. He'd seen this bravery before, in Emily, who once risked herself to save someone else. When Clara returned, carrying the sobbing child, something shifted in Daniel. She wasn't Emily. She wasn't a replacement. She was simply a kind woman with a familiar face and a courageous heart. That night didn't end with romance. It ended with a complicated feeling Daniel wasn't ready to name. But it wasn't the end of their story. It was just the beginning. The next morning began chaotically, as most mornings did. Lily refused to wear socks, the toaster burned the bread, and Daniel spilled coffee on his shirt. Normal chaos. Comfortable, familiar. But inside him, thoughts of Clara lingered like a persistent melody he couldn't silence. "Daddy?" Lily tugged his sleeve. "Why are you staring at the wall?" He blinked. "Just thinking." "About Mommy?" Kids said the most direct things without warning. "Sometimes," he admitted softly. Lily studied him with wise eyes for a 6-year-old. "It's okay to think about happy things, Daddy." But he wasn't thinking only of Emily. He was thinking of Clara, of the confusion, the pain, and the strange sense of warmth he felt after the panic faded. Later that afternoon, as fate would have it, Clara appeared again. At the park. Lily ran ahead toward the playground, but Daniel froze when he saw Clara sitting alone on a bench, sketching in a small notebook. She looked up, surprised but smiling politely. "Daniel." "Hi." He wanted to flee. He wanted to stay. He hated the confusion. "I owe you an apology," he said honestly. "Last night. I wasn't fair to you." Clara shook her head. "You were grieving. Grief isn't polite." Her words sank deep. They talked for a while, hesitantly at first. Clara told him she was an illustrator, recently moved to town. She had no family nearby. She wasn't dating anyone seriously. She wasn't looking for drama. And Daniel, for the first time in years, talked about Emily, not in a broken way, but in a remembering way. Clara listened with gentle patience, never pushing, never assuming. Then Lily came running. "Daddy." "Who's she?" Daniel hesitated. Clara knelt down to Lily's height. "I'm Clara. I like drawing animals. Want to see?" In minutes, Lily was laughing, describing unicorns and dragons while Clara sketched them with magical ease. Daniel watched, mesmerized. Not because Clara looked like Emily. But because she didn't treat Lily like a burden. She didn't treat him like a broken man. She simply existed in their world without trying to fix it or replace anything. As the sky turned orange, Lily held up the drawing proudly. "Daddy. Can we see Clara again?" Daniel expected the panic to return. But instead, he felt calm. Clara stood, brushing off her jeans. "Only if your dad wants to." He didn't know what this feeling was, hope, fear, guilt, all mixed together. But he knew one thing. "Yeah," Daniel said quietly. "I think we'd like that." Clara smiled, not the same smile Emily used to give, but a new one. Soft, warm, full of possibility. It didn't erase the past. It didn't replace his memories. It simply opened a door he'd kept locked for far too long. And sometimes, that's how healing begins.